Well, good afternoon. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. So I want to give everyone the 2-minute warning as you're joining us. We'll begin briefly. Looks like we have a number of folks joining us. Now we're up to 25 or so participants on the webinar. We'll get started in 1 minute. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar focused on serving clients with a multidisciplinary team. My name is Chris Baker and I'm the President and CEO of the Delaware County Foundation. So I want to welcome each of you and thank you for taking the time to join us. The Foundation is pleased to continue to provide continuing education programs for professional advisors. In fact, we regard our relationship with you as one of the critical components in ensuring a strong philanthropic community. We're excited to continue to partner with attorneys, financial advisors, CPAs, and others in your role as professional advisors in helping to connect your clients with causes that matter and lead to greater outcomes for our communities. I'd like to take a moment to provide a quick update on the Foundation while a few of us are still logging into the webinar. Over the past few weeks, we've been focusing on meeting emerging needs in the community. And part of that has been that we've shifted our grant process to be a lot more responsive to emerging needs that we're seeing now due to the COVID pandemic. So today, you're going to be the first to hear this, but we're actually announcing an additional wave of grants that's going to go out to 23 nonprofits. It's about $130,000 that'll be checks cut in the mail by Friday to combat challenges that we're seeing right now, like food insecurity. It also provides support for housing and utility assistance. And then there's funding as part of this package for nonprofits that are working to remove barriers around transportation, child care, education. So really proud to be able to do that at this point in time. And this is the first wave of what we're anticipating will be a total of 3 waves that will hit this fall. So stay tuned. We're going to have some more grants that we'll be sharing out there. I also wanted to mention that our Evening of Generosity event, which is our signature event, is scheduled for October the 21st. We're actually shifting that to a virtual format instead of an in-person meeting. So that's going to be a little bit of a change this year. But I really want to thank all of our sponsors, donors, and the community for supporting this transition. We certainly recognize that it's not easy, but very necessary. So appreciate all the support that we've gotten there. To get the ball rolling, today's forum is brought to you in partnership with Barnes & Thornburg. Before I hand the control over to our panelists, I have a few housekeeping emails to cover around their presentation and the webinar platform today. First, a recorded version of this webinar will be sent via email to every registered participant. Today's presentation has been submitted for CLE and CFP credit. But in order to qualify, there are some interesting little things here that I want to point out. The first is that you must respond at least twice during the webinar today to some polling questions that we're going to put out there. The Supreme Court in particular wants to make sure that nobody gets up and goes and gets a cup of coffee. They want to have your attention throughout the entirety of today's webinar. So we're going to start with one of those, and then towards the end of the panelist discussion today, we'll ask the audience for another. So wanted to mention that. Also, you're going to receive a post-event survey, and that is the final hoop that you have to jump through to get that credit. and you'll supply, once again, all of your information for that. So make sure you don't get up and step away for a cup of coffee if you would. So next, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to send them through the chat button at the bottom of the meeting window. We'll be answering questions throughout the session. And if we don't get to every one of your questions during today's webinar, I'm sure our panelists will follow up via email. So without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming our panel moderator, Mr. Bill Nolan. Bill is the managing partner of Barnes & Thornburg's Ohio office, which he opened in 2009 and is guided to one of Central Ohio's largest full-service law firms. He's a Harvard Law grad, resides in Delaware County, and is active in several philanthropic causes, including the Delaware County United Way and the Delaware County Foundation. So with that, Bill, I'll turn it over to you and you can take it away.
All right, thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I am actually a 30-year resident of Powell at this point, which not all that many people can say. Certainly there are people here who've got me beat, but not a huge percentage. So I'm fortunate to have been involved with the foundation in various ways for a while now, and great to see what they're doing and the energy right now. So Chris, I am, so my expertise, I'm a labor and employment lawyer, which is not really a relevant expertise to what the foundation does or these lunches, but I've always, what used to be lunches and will be again, but I think these professional advisors for a great service, and just always really interesting to me of the different expertises, both in the, on the panel and in the, among the attendees. So Chris and Suzanne and I, before COVID, had coffee back when we used to do that more, and just talking about how those different disciplines work together. And that's our purpose today. So I'll give just the briefest of introductions, just in the order the boxes are on my screen. See Scott Eicher from the accounting firm of GBQ, Logan Phillips from Resch, Root, Phillips and Graham, who is a lawyer who does have expertise, relevant to sort of the wealth planning and such that in the foundation space, and then Samantha Anderson with the financial planning firm of Boudreaux, Rulin and Rowe. So really appreciate all of them joining us. We had a couple of conversations beforehand, and I don't think we're going to have any shortage of insights or content. I don't remember if Chris mentioned this, but we will watch we'll watch the chat box for your questions as well, and certainly welcome that. So I wonder if we just might start by each of you. We'll we're not going to be super formal here, but by each of you just giving us a little bit about what's your practice and how you individually serve clients, and then we'll try to put some of that together. So just go in alphabetical order by last name. Sam, please.
That's me. Welcome, everyone. And thank you, Bill, for the opportunity and the foundation to be on this panel. I'm Samantha Anderson. I work for Boudreaux, Rulin and Rowe. I'm a certified financial planner, and I've been with the firm for almost 10 years now. My role there is I work directly with clients to provide financial planning, whether it's estate, tax, education, insurance planning for multiple families, clients, and business owners.
Great. Scott.
Hello, everyone. Look forward to meeting again in person here soon, but glad to be here. Thanks to the foundation and Bill, Chris for the invite. And I'm Scott Eicher. I'm with GBQ Partners here in Columbus. Started my career with the firm back in 2009 and been here ever since. I work primarily with high net worth individuals and their families, business owners, executives, closely held businesses, to really do just kind of full service tax planning, compliance, consulting around a lot of different areas, including state and gift and executive comp and a host of other things that pop up on the tax side, which is ever changing right now, as you see in the news. So yeah, look forward to joining the panelists here, and excited that Big Ten football's back. So feels like fun.
Exactly. That's the real news. So,
Yes.
all right. Logan.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Bill and Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about myself, my favorite topic. I'm an estate planning attorney. What I do is I work with regular folks, I like to call them, to plan for their future and the future of their loved ones. Most of my clients are under the estate tax exemption of 22 million, roughly. And they'll continue to be under the estate tax exemption when that comes down in 2025. So most of my clients are certainly under the $12 million to $10 million estate or wealth. A particular area of practice and focus is planning for families with children with special needs. I help families to develop plans so that that individual can live as comfortably as they can with a high quality of life. Most of my practice is about avoiding probate court for families who don't have the special needs, and for families with special needs, avoiding probate court and making sure that government benefits are continued.
Excellent. Well, thanks. And so, Logan, we'll stay with you for a minute. And I think, there's one of those things, all of us who are, in professional services, you sort of, know it when you see it, which will, the lawyers here will remember that from law school, a quote from a Supreme Court justice. But, it's sometimes hard to articulate. I think it's a useful exercise for all of us to articulate. So Logan, what sort of triggers for you when a client needs your services, just in the general sense?
Needs my services? What would cause a client to call me?
Yeah, or cause you to say, hey, you need my services.
Great. So actually, COVID-19 has made our phones ring more than they were. So whenever people are thinking about what's going to happen to them if they become incapacitated, or what's going to happen to their family when they're gone, that's a time to get in touch with an estate planning attorney. What I like to say is, and this is our tagline, we plan for bright tomorrows. And so what we're doing is we're making sure that a family is taken care of after people are gone. We do that by avoiding probate court if we can, and establishing trust that protects people from themselves if they need to. If you have a child that's young, or a child with a drug problem, a child with a mental health issue, or protect them from creditors. So what a trigger for me is always if people have questions about their will, that would be a time that they need to have my services. When people talk about probate court, that would be a time that people would need to talk to me about my services.
Very good. Yeah, I find just as, as a lawyer at cocktail parties, I probably get most questions about people's wills, even though I don't know anything about it. So
yeah, the most common misconception that I find is that people think that they are avoiding probate court if they have a will, and nothing could be further from the truth. We have newsletters that go out that a will guarantees probate court. That if you have assets that are going to go through your will, you are guaranteeing probate court, and not a lot of lay people know that.
People understand that. Very good. All right. Yeah, no particular. Sam, what sort of trigger for you as to when somebody you're talking to needs your services?
Well, I believe everyone needs financial guidance, but I think we see most people actually don't come to us until they're stressed or overwhelmed. They're planning a career change, nearing retirement, they have a business liquidation. But most of our business actually comes from people like Logan and Scott and friends that refer in. So those friends and the people close to them see that they're overwhelmed and that they need a financial planner. So I would say that, anxiety triggers them to come to us and that they need a financial planner.
Okay. And mostly referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, on the tax side, I mean, I think we're fortunate. No one likes dealing with taxes. I'm one of the rare people that do. And so I think we feel privileged to sometimes take that off of people's plate. So I think a lot of times it's a time burden or complexity issue where they just realize they have enough going on in their business, personal, family life to dictate, needing more than just whether it's TurboTax or H&R Block or, even just a friend down the street doing their taxes. I think they realize that whether it's their business or their family needs kind of true tax advice and wants someone to rely on and someone they can call. So that's obviously first and foremost. And then I think the other is just life changes, starting a business, selling a business, even inheriting money or creating trusts or starting to fund college for grandkids. I mean, all those things start to trigger tax implications and questions and more planning. And then lastly, you layer on just all the law changes. I think people in general right now have more curiosity around taxes and with some of just the basic headlines out there and all the tax reform that happened at the end of 2017 with President Trump, and then now with the CARES Act and Secure Act and all those changes too. So yeah, it's really around complexity and just, hey, I don't know what I don't know. I need someone that does this.
Scott, just since Sam mentioned it, what portion of your work, your work is referral based?
That's tough. I would say my practice in particular is pretty heavily in referrals because I'm dealing with families. They want a name of someone that knows us or has worked with me, so yeah, a lot of times it is coming through a financial planner or an attorney or a friend. On the business side, it's probably more through our marketing and name and outreach and more our presence. But definitely on the individual side, it's a large amount of referrals.
Okay. So, Scott, what, and then we get, we'll all get calls, and, for one reason or another, business we won't take, in my case, just frame of reference, since I typically represent employers and we'll do executive contracts, but we don't file lawsuits for employees. So those are calls I will get. I will refer to another practitioner. What sorts of things in your field, stay in your field here, situations you might get where you're going to send it somewhere else other than keep it there at GBQ?
Yeah, I think with my practice, I mean, because we're working with more high net worth individuals, and I mean, that's kind of a misnomer too. No one feels like they're high net worth or has a lot of money, but in some sense, there needs to be a level of complexity or volume or significance there to justify our fees and our time and kind of the investment in that relationship long term. I mean, we can certainly grow with startups and entrepreneurs, but we have to kind of understand what our approach is and the costs involved. So I think sometimes the biggest misconception is if someone's doing the taxes on their own maybe or using TurboTax, they may think the next logical step is working with a firm like us. And that may not always be their, the need they have. I mean, they may just need someone with a little more experience that can help them kind of prepare the return at tax time or give them a little more peace of mind with some different software. They may not need full service tax planning, consulting type of relationship. And I think helping kind of define the amount of time we would typically want to spend with them and typically what our fees are going to range for someone, in their similar position, that helps kind of clarify that. And then we can normally refer them to maybe a one or two owner, smaller firm locally, or, someone that's certainly qualified and can help them with some, complexity, but not someone that needs maybe a full service, tax relationship, I guess.
Right. And I would assume, because this happens, I mean, that explanation is not unlike, what might be at sort of a large law firm like ours, that, those smaller practitioners call you back sometimes, right? When they've got something, which is, it's nice to have those relationships.
Yeah.
So Logan, other than the obvious, that you're obviously within your subject matter expertise, are there sort of situations you get where you would send the client, someone else in the legal field for estate planning needs?
I will send it down the hallway. So my firm consists of four attorneys, 3 partners, Derek Graham and Bill Root. Bill really likes doing complex work with businesses, many businesses, multi-generational planning, avoiding estate tax. That's not something that I particularly enjoy. But he loves it. I often joke he likes to stand up at the board and move things around, and that's what he really enjoys doing. So I have sent, for estate planning purposes, I send it down the hallway because we're able to help people in all different types of situations, whether it's charitable gift planning, intentionally defective grantor trusts, CLATs, all of those things we can do in-house. I do get calls for people, though, for estate planning outside of the general central Ohio area. So oftentimes a client will call me and say, hey, my brother needs an estate planning attorney in Cleveland. Do you know someone? Or do you know somebody in Boston or all around? And if they're outside of Ohio, generally I refer them to a group that I'm a part of called Wealth Counsel. Those are attorneys who've paid a fee and also are interested in doing estate planning. They have software that we use. So those are people that are committed to being on the cutting edge of estate planning. So if you're out there and you are looking for an estate planning attorney somewhere else, wealthcounsel.com, you can search by zip code. And that's how I find people. And I obviously tell my clients, I don't endorse any of these people. I don't know who they are, but I know that they are holding themselves out there and have joined a group that wants to do this work and stay abreast of the latest information.
And since you mention it, I mean, how important is it in your area? I'm in Central Ohio. How important is it that my estate planning lawyer be in Central Ohio as opposed to Cleveland or farther away?
Well, I have helped people all over the state, particularly with the special needs. I do seminars and get invited to speak all over the state. It's more difficult. You're coordinating signings. You're doing signings on Zoom. When a client's in my office, we're going to flip through the portfolio and sign each document. I'm going to know what's signed. If I'm producing documents and sending them to somebody who's going to notarize it down in Cincinnati, that gets things out of my control. And I often get concerned, did it actually make it into the portfolio where it was supposed to go? So it does add a layer of logistical issues. So I like to work with people who are willing to come to my office at least once. So what we can do is we can do a Zoom meeting, but if they're in Cincinnati, they need to come to my office to do the signing, because that makes it cost effective for everybody, because they're not going to want to pay me a fee to drive down to Cincinnati and back. But in order for it to be worth my while, I need to charge a higher fee than I would for somebody here in Central Ohio. So that's kind of the way it works.
Makes sense. Sam, back to the question I had asked these guys. What are calls you might get in your field, in your discipline that for whatever reason you might send to somebody else in your area?
Well, we have a lot of different services. We do full wealth management, investment management, retirement planning services nationwide. So unlike Logan, we can send signatures and work with people virtually. So location is not a factor. I think the only factor for us would be if someone needs more of just a one-time check-in just to make sure they're on track rather than full annual service. So that would be a circumstance where we have some planners here in the area that we refer to.
Yeah, and I think there's a personal taste on the part of some clients, right? Calls for estate planning, which we have in our firm, but not in Ohio. And I'll say, you could work with this person in Indianapolis, or I can give you names of somebody like Logan. So in that case, well, we need to do a fog the mirror test for the lawyers here. So Chris, you want to throw a poll question in here? I know we've got to do 2 during the course of it.
That's right. So I'm going to throw the first poll out to the group. How this is going to work is you'll see a box pop up on the screen. Take a moment to input your response. So the question is, which situation most likely triggers the need to send a CFP's client to another type of professional? So you see the options there. We have only a few people that have responded so far. So it should be on your screen. Click your response, and we'll give it just a second, and then I'll share it with the group.
And I think the Supreme Court will not give you credit if you get the answer wrong, right, Chris?
Actually, that's not a requirement. So luckily not. So we still got about 7 more folks to weigh in. So I'll give it about 10 seconds. All right, I think we got most of the group there. So let's end that poll. And I'm going to share the results with you. So the correct answer, according to the group, it looks like 96% believe that the client needs guidance on the tax ramifications as she sells her business. So
okay,
that'd be the answer. Yep.
All right. So Sam, that's a pretty natural lead-in. It might look planned, but it actually wasn't. This is just dumb luck. But what from your standpoint, I'm going to ask the other guys. We sort of talked about things inside your expertise, but what does make you call somebody like Scott or somebody like Logan? Is the pull, is that the most common answer, or is it something else?
Lots of things. So actually, most people, I would say, need a CPA or an attorney, estate planning attorney, especially my clients. But I would say it's a change in client situation. We also have the luxury of seeing many tax returns and estate documents, and sometimes they need a different attorney or someone more specialized in a field. I've actually sent a referral to Scott before because he specializes in stock options. So that's one thing, but just specialization and situation that they're in, I guess calls for a referral to one of them.
Okay. Scott, how about when do you need to call someone like Logan or someone like Sam?
Yeah, I think the two biggest things for me are, definitely on the financial advisory side, we don't give investment advice. We don't manage assets. And, so someone's telling me, hey, I need to, should I be holding this much in bonds or stocks, or I'm thinking about doing this or that to diversify, or if I hear anything around, investment strategy, cash flow management, a host of things, even like, how to best, manage the money maybe for minor children, or what types of accounts to open for minor children. Any of those kinds of things are going to trigger me to just ask you, are you working with someone on the investment side? Because, it's important to, one, we can't give securities advice as a CPA firm. And so yeah, I've sent many referrals to investment providers and that area. On the legal side, it's absolutely, if there's any kind of need to draft documents, I think that's kind of obvious. Number one, we don't do any of that work in-house. And even on the tax side, while we can recommend maybe a certain type of trust or a certain need that's there on the charitable side, or a gift that might make sense, education planning, we're not experts in state law or trust law. And so even if we think we even know the right vehicle or something, we're going to get an attorney involved to help weigh some alternatives, kind of factor in, current law and regulations that are out there, and just kind of what's best for the client. Fortunately, most of our clients are sophisticated enough to typically have a relationship already with someone. But if not, we're quickly trying to make sure they are meeting with, estate planning attorney, especially newer clients.
Yeah, and I didn't give you a heads up on this question, but just your talking reminds me, in the world of sort of, the things that lawyers and big firms get, there's a lot of talk about the big four accounting firms, sort of getting into the legal world and certain ways. Is that, and I know, obviously it's all regulated, but is that something that a firm your size, which I think we call a regional firm, maybe, I mean, sort of within what's allowed can get into legal services? I mean, you talk about that's not your expertise, and I know, but you sort of see that in the future at all?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're 250 professionals across 4 offices. I mean, we have relationship and are part of the BDO Alliance, which is the 5th largest firm in the world. And even I don't think they have a lot of attorneys or give legal services. I don't know how you could be an expert in both is probably like the easiest answer there. I mean, I just think there's so much in the world of tax accounting to begin with. I think clients appreciate maybe separating those expertise.
Yeah.
You can get, I'm sure there's some legal ramifications too of attorney-client privilege and a lot of other stuff that probably Logan could speak to better. But no, we are very careful to not give tax advice.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big four intend to hire lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of different rules, different places. So yeah, we shall see. But getting back to the question we were going through. So Logan, when do you need to call somebody in Scott's world or somebody in Sam's world, or call your client too?
Well, I want to comment back about what you and
Please.
what you were talking about with Scott. That I see that a lot actually, where people will come in and they have an LLC and they'll say that their accountant set it up for them, and that's terrific. The accountant went and set it up with the Secretary of State and got them a sheet of paper that said that they had an LLC, but there are no bank accounts in the LLC. They don't have a written declaration that's required by the Ohio Revised Code. They haven't done anything to separate themselves from the LLC, but they think they have protection with it. So I do see that, and we try to make sure that we solve that issue. That setting up an LLC is so easy. I mean, the Secretary of State advertises about how easy it is, but it means nothing if there's nothing in the LLC. Or if you're not separating yourself from that LLC in some way that is formalized. So back to where I make referrals to the financial professionals on the panel. The first is in estates. We do not do tax returns. So when we have a client who comes in, their mom has passed away and mom did her own taxes or didn't have a relationship with an accountant, we refer out the final income tax and also the, if the client wants us to, and also of course the income tax related to an estate. We don't do any income tax preparation at all. So we always refer that out. The other time when I refer business out is I see people who come in. I'm the first professional that they've met because they've had a child. They know they need to do something. But what is it? So they're told by mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, go in and get a will because you need to name a guardian. Well, then we talk about what a will does. Then we talk about what they're doing, growing their wealth. And I don't do any financial management. So that's where I would make a referral. The other joke, and I tell this joke, but it's in all seriousness, I sell a lot of life insurance, but I don't sell life insurance. So what that means is, when people sit down with me and we start to think about what they're going to be leaving for their spouse and their children if they were to die, they realize that it's not enough. And so they know that they need life insurance. And that's a time when I refer that out if they don't already have a relationship. So I create the need. I'm actually selling it. And it's a very, very hot lead for people when I refer them because they need to know how to buy and what kind of life insurance to get. Because they never realized that they were so underinsured.
Interesting. So making a referral, how do you do that? How do you choose that? Make sure your client's taken care of.
For me, so I try to match up personalities with different people. I try, the financial advisors I know, depending on the level of sophistication that people need, some advisors will not do a one-time estate plan and charge $1,500 to $2,000 to kind of show people where they are and where they might want to go. Some people, do not want somebody that will charge them commissions. So I kind of base it on what the client wants, what their profession is. I have financial planners that specialize in helping teachers, financial planners that specialize in helping firefighters and police officers, financial planner who works only with dentists. So that's how I make the referral. I'll tell you though that when I do make a referral, I do it in a way that helps the client. So I don't think it's good enough for me to say, here, call this person. Because if those people are like me, what's going to happen is they're going to get in their car with my meeting. They're going to take the piece of paper where that name's written down, put it on their passenger seat of their car. And it's going to sit there until somebody goes in to get in the passenger seat of their car, and then they're going to move it to the back seat. So they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing because they have other things. I mean, as soon as they get in the car, they're on the phone doing something else. So I always introduce my clients to my referrals. And so I send a joint email introducing them. And I say to the referral, please reach out to these people because I want it off my client's plate. I don't want them to have to think about calling this person. I know that they need it. And so I want to put them in a position to solve that problem and get that goal achieved.
That's great. That's a great answer. Scott, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I think personality is a big fit, geographic, maybe location, size of the firm, maybe there could be some other common, like maybe the advisor already works with several other execs at that company, or, we know that Logan's done similar financial estate plans for, similar types of families or couples or, special needs. And then I think the other is just, like Logan said, trying to figure out the best way to help hand it off and make sure you do some of the hand holding. I mean, some clients are very proactive and may have some relationships and you just want like an opinion of, hey, should I talk to so-and-so firm or this firm? Others just clearly come in with no idea of the law firms in town and who they should be working with, and are going to just consult Google for, estate planning attorneys. And in that case, we really try to give them some names, maybe set up a meeting or a phone call. And I can always offer to clients, like, let us, we can sit in with you. For example, if you want to interview 2 or 3 investment managers, we can sit in there with you and help you ask the right questions, maybe kind of recap from some of those meetings and help you weigh your options. I think trying to, if you help a client find another really strong advisor, I mean, you'll have a client forever. I mean, Logan and Sam could probably both speak to that. And so I've tried to kind of give away that time and help make those connections.
Yeah, no, clients, very appreciative of good referrals that go well for sure. Sam, it's hard to add much to those. Those are 2 great answers on referrals. Got anything you can add to that?
It is hard to add. The last thing I would say is we know who we refer to, so it's someone we've talked to, and it's important that it's their ideal client as well. So whereas Scott was saying with his firm, we wouldn't send someone someone that just needs an individual tax return done that's fairly simple. We probably wouldn't send that to Scott, but someone that has more complex tax strategies that we're implementing, someone that, wants to work with us on tax strategies. I think that's really important. And when we hand them off, it's not simply a handoff like Logan was saying, but it's, a partner with ongoing strategy, planning, and someone, because when we work with someone like an accountant or an estate planning attorney, there's part of it that has to be implemented. So if we have their accounts, like Logan was saying, is everything funded? Is the LLC funded? And that's, basically what we're talking about here is the benefit of a team of professionals here. So.
Yeah. So Sam, we'll stick with you. So give the attendees, what's with appropriate scrub, protecting anonymity to protect the innocent. What, give us an example, if you can, of just a coordination among different kinds of professionals that you think went well for the client.
Yeah, so specific situations that these happen quite frequently with clients is, we're making a big gift. We're doing some wealth transfer strategies. So they have some wealth they want to transfer to kids, and it takes all sorts of professionals to work together. So the gift tax return has to be filed and filed correctly with information that we provide. We have to transfer the assets. And then the estate planning attorney either needs to, draft the trust document, or, sometimes it's a GRAT document. So, and sometimes there's even life insurance built into it. We don't sell any life insurance draft documents or anything. So sometimes we have to pull all sorts of agents into it. So it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah, I was going to say, we could probably, based on a couple of your comments, have an insurance professional on this panel very well as well. I mean, that's a good insight. And no offense to any insurance professionals who are attending. We should have. Scott, good example of kind of cross-disciplinary coordination you've got at all?
Yeah, definitely the gifting situation. I would say the other would be transactional based. So selling, buying a business. I mean, you're going to need legal advice, and there's probably going to be some financial ramifications around that as well, especially if there's a big liquidity event. How is that money going to be invested or handled or set aside for taxes? I don't want my client getting sometimes 7, 8, 9 figures and managing that on their own. They need someone that's helping them put it in the right accounts, invest it prudently. I mean, this may be the biggest transaction of their life and the only one. The other would be the basic day-to-day things, opening donor advised funds, even sometimes just helping open bank accounts for minors, or fund a trust, or contribute to a 529 plan for a grandchild. I mean, I think you always want to involve, a professional that's doing that every day and kind of knows the best approach there. I mean, I've even heard financial advisor last week mentioned that they use Virginia 529 accounts due to how the fees can be charged and the flexibility, and kind of was an idea I'd never even heard before, and didn't know that was even possible. So I think there's always some unknowns out there. Even if we can give them good advice, it's worth coordinating with someone.
Well, we have a sort of a success story in this area, whether it's specific or sort of a composite.
Sure. Well, two things is, when I work with a client that's been referred by either a CPA or a financial advisor, I like to, I want to make sure that we close the loop, so that after the documents have been signed, their plan is implemented, the financial advisor or the professional who's referred them to me is going to get all of the funding letters that the client left with. And the client's on that email that says, hey, we've implemented the trust. Here are the funding instructions. We're taking care of the house with a transfer on death. We took care of the personal property. Could you please complete the documents that they need to make the changes with their beneficiary designations with your accounts? So we're closing that loop. And then the client is just kind of watching, and they get a call from the financial advisor and say, hey, we're ready for you to come in and sign these documents. And so the client feels really taken care of when professionals work well together. Another example, though, of where I needed a CPA and the client didn't. We were going to do in the special needs arena, we were going to move an IRA into a trust, which is generally not, people say don't do that because it's a taxable event. I had found a PALMS, a private letter ruling that allowed it. And since I'm not an accountant, I didn't know all that they were talking about. I just saw that the decision was it was okay. So I had to bring in an accountant and say, can you tell me that I'm okay to do this? And I got an opinion letter from them. The client felt comfortable after researching with other private letter rulings to move forward with this strategy. And that worked out really, really well for the client.
Yeah, I want to echo one thing Logan said. I mean, we love when that loop's closed as well. Sometimes as the accountant, we're historians and we find out everything like earlier in the year that happened. Like we're still working on 2019 tax returns right now because of the extension deadline. So I love like the year it happened, you get a cover letter from an attorney with the 10 trusts that were formed, the trust documents, the EINs, the amount of, contact info for the trustee. I mean, that gets us excited, and it takes a lot to get tax people excited. So, but yeah, I think closing that loop's really important.
And Scott, to add to that, even, we provide on a quarterly basis or more often, investment income and things we are doing throughout the year. So the accountant can adjust their quarterly estimates. So the client and the accountant is not surprised at the end of the year whether they're underpaid or overpaid. So it's just so important.
Yeah, that's another good example.
Yeah, and I think, if I sort of look and it sounds easy. The fact is you don't always, I feel like you don't always see the level of coordination. And I'll see, in my world, not often, but if I'm, say, working with an executive who's, part of a small business and there's stock and a fair amount of money involved, usually I'm the last one in on something like that. They've been working with their accountant a long time. They've been working with their financial planner a long time. And it's a situation where, you got to create some documents. But I think, so I think clients appreciate, one is that where your expertise begins and ends, within your organization or outside your organization. And it's, it's really, they appreciate me saying, that's not what I do. But let me find you someone who does, and not everybody does that. Obviously good communication is one thing, and just, that people, all of you, are looking sort of holistically at the client's needs, and it's easy. I know lawyers best, of course. It's easy for me to sort of have my eye on, this statute, and not be thinking about the other stuff. So, I just sort of kind of pull those out as kind of common threads of things that sounds like all of you do well, not surprisingly. So, Sam, as long as I think you spoke last, is there again, without getting anybody in trouble, can you think of a situation where the coordination wasn't what it should have been, and you had to sort of scramble to clean something up?
Yeah, it happens. It mostly happens when, the other professional isn't very responsive, or they're just not willing to share information or work with that other person. And typically it's the client that's disappointed because it's a surprise to them. And whether it's a tax bill or the tax filing is wrong and we have to go back and fix it, or, the estate documents are not, to do the estate documents, you typically have to know what their financial picture is like. And for a client to translate that to an estate attorney or vice versa is difficult. It's like a game of telephone, I think. Things get misconstrued. So we've had a couple situations where that it's ended like that, and it's more costly to fix it. So.
Sure. Yeah, and I like what you said about, you don't want to leave it to the client usually to be translating what you're saying.
Yeah, and saving them time too, I think, is important. We don't charge by the hour, so our time, if we can translate something to the estate planning attorney and save them some time instead of going over every single aspect of the estate plan, that helps the client too.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Logan, what's an example of maybe where it doesn't work so well or didn't work so well that you've seen on the side?
Well, it's just, I think it's just about chasing people down. And that's the difficulty, is that the balls get dropped. The difficult part too is having that conversation with another professional and saying, I don't agree with what you've done here. I don't want to go to the client without you, but we need to fix this. And so let's get together and figure out how we're going to present this so that your relationship isn't altered, but the client gets what they need. because ultimately that's my first priority, is to take care of that client. So that gets difficult. Tracking people down is another difficulty. So in our world, there are insurance policies for legal fees. So oftentimes I will have a family come in who are, they're here to see me because of the special needs. They know that they need a special type of trust for their loved one, but they also know that they're part of an insurance program. Well, that insurance program doesn't have people in there that kind of have the focus that I do, but they want to use that other attorney in the insurance program to do the planning around the third-party discretionary trust. And I'm dealing with that right now. They went to another attorney to do the planning around the trust that I created. So basically, if we're building a car, I put on the special suspension, okay? But this guy's supposed to build the car. Well, those insurance companies don't pay real well to those attorneys who do that. So you got to do a lot of that. So this attorney is probably, in his mind, is putting that one on the back burner because he's not able to charge what he does if somebody came in off the street. So I'm struggling with that currently right now. So again, it's as Sam said, it's tracking people down to close that loop. And it's difficult because you don't want to harass people, but you also need to take care of the client.
Yeah, and Sam, I don't use the word responsiveness, which, what you're saying, I think is similar. And then, it's just huge. And when I look at, we keep our lists because, we get calls for estate planning. We get calls for sort of personal injury side or plaintiff side stuff that we wouldn't normally do on individual level. And domestic, we get lots of calls for domestic. And I keep little lists, and the feedback from clients is important. And if somebody's not responsive, that's not good. And it looks like Scott left us, but I assume he'll be back. So we'll soldier on without him. The nature of 2020. But so we won't ask him that question. And actually, Chris, this might be a good time, because I think it fits pretty well here anyway, to do our second poll question, because I know we don't have tons of time left. So make sure we keep any of the lawyers who are on board in compliance here.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to launch this poll for the group. So the question is, an attorney is always the best quarterback, in quotes, in every scenario when planning a client's estate, tax liability reduction, and charitable trust options. True or false? And just a few more making their selections right now. All right, I'm going to close it and share the results. So according to the group, that is absolutely false. In fact, everybody felt pretty strongly, on that. There was still about 20% of folks that actually did believe that the attorney was the best, quarterback in every scenario. So.
All right.
All right.
Well, let's see what our remaining panelists have to say about that. And in part, some of this flows. You guys have, all three of you have said a lot about and different scenarios and different sequences and things, but and maybe that's going to be the answer. It just depends. But when you got all three involved, Sam, do you feel like one is kind of more naturally and more commonly the quarterback of the multidisciplinary team?
Yeah, I would say the financial professional does a lot of coordinating, but a quarterback is nowhere without his team or her team. So, while we do a lot of coordinating, everyone's role is important. And like we've talked about, I think this whole panel is, the team approach and making sure everyone's on board. But yeah, I would say we tend to quarterback most of it for clients.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't, as I say, I come at it from a slightly different legal practice perspective. But yeah, I feel like oftentimes that's the financial planner is the longest term of the relationships when all three are involved. From my anecdotal, Logan, what about you? What do you think?
Generally, I think that it is the financial planner, if there is a financial planner. So I see clients oftentimes without a financial planner. There really is no quarterback. They're coming in to do an estate plan with me. We got a 401k. They're in STRS. They're not thinking about having a financial planner at this time. They're trying to build their wealth, and rather than manage it, that's all they can do. There really isn't any management. So at that point, then I become probably the entire team, meeting with them on, every couple of years to see if anything's changed. Have they had another child? Is the guardian still the right guardian? Is the trustee still the right trustee? So they don't have a financial planner. But generally, if there is a financial planner involved, that financial planner is the hub of the wheel, and we're kind of spokes that kind of report back to that individual, because that's the person they're going to see on probably every 6 months. If they are paying somebody to manage their money, they are involved. They're meeting with that financial planner maybe once a quarter, maybe every half year. So that person is the one who knows what's going on, where the boots are on the ground.
Very good. Thank you.
Sorry, bear with me.
All right. Well, we did what happens in any good meeting is while you were gone, we assigned you a bunch of stuff.
Good. I was having I think the outlet I was plugged into didn't have power, so sorry about that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no problem. You can tell when you were gone, there was a quarterbacking poll question, and I think you've heard part of Sam's and Logan's answers. Sounds like we, have more or less consensus. Is that, your observation as well? So when you do have all three disciplines involved, who's kind of the hub?
No, I always want to be the quarterback. So,
all right, the control freak.
Yeah, I think this has evolved over time, but sometimes I think there's just some humility needed, honestly, in some of our professions sometimes, where maybe we've had a relationship a long time, but the reality is, a financial planner, especially like a really full service financial advisor, is going to be more at the forefront of kind of their daily needs. And it's just going to be more in tune to their life. Whether they're having kids or doing things or moving money around, they're just going to be more at the forefront of that.
Very good. Yeah, and humility is a good word, actually. I think it fits those sort of things I was ticking off there. Fortunately, I'm sure Logan would agree that there are no lawyers at all with humility issues, so that's never a problem in our profession. And I know we're getting fairly close to our hour. We're not going to drop off, but if any attendees want to pop any questions in the chat box, you're welcome to. I do want, given the reason we're doing it this way, sitting in our individual spaces is unique, I think, in any of our careers, at least that we're more or less forced to do it. At some level, I know different people have different opinions on that, but in general, the circumstances have caused us to be here. So it's a crazy year, different for all of us. So, just like to hear what kind of any unique challenges or changes have been in your areas, whether it's your sort of client needs, and, we mentioned cares and that sort of thing. So I know that's part of it. And, and also just how you're working yourselves and with others. So Scott, we'll stay with you first.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've seen this year, that maybe it was like this when I started my career in 2009, was things are a little more defensive right now. We've been able to be kind of on the offensive and doing planning, and we're still doing a lot of those things, but certainly this year became the PPP loan. Hey, my business is struggling. Hey, we had to lay off people. Deciding whether to bring people back. We're deciding whether to reopen. These are the questions now we're getting. So I think it does change the planning a little bit and help. It can be a good thing too, to help revisit whether it's a certain kind of business structure or, their investment strategy or whatever. I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of it too, but that's been the biggest thing I've seen this year is just, moving more towards the defensive right now. I honestly, from a technology standpoint, I've not seen a lot of interruption. I miss seeing my clients in person. I think some clients really do miss that as well, but technology is a great tool, and I don't think we've really missed a beat there. You can always pick up the phone and call a client, and for the most part, that's been smooth for our business.
Good. Sam?
We didn't see much of an interruption. We can do a lot of our job virtually. I think the positive of it is we can get together with other professionals pretty easily now, rather than deciding, whose location to meet at and taking time out of our day. But I would say negatively, we do a lot of counseling and active listening with our clients. And part of that is reading body language and communication between the two, whether it's spouses or you just don't get as much of that over video. So I would say that's one of the negative pieces, but it certainly has brought a lot of efficiencies that we may keep going forward as well.
Yeah, I certainly expected to be doing much less of, driving to Cleveland for a minor deposition. I used to going forward. Very good. Yeah, and really interesting on the spouses, the dynamic there. That's a interesting observation. Logan, how about you? And then we've got a great question here from an attendee that we'll do after you get to speak to Life in 2020, Logan.
Well, what was being able to call ourselves essential when the pandemic occurred. That was always nice. But we actually had to alter the way we did our signings. So for a period of time, we did our signings outside under a tent. We called it a drive-up signing. So we called it also the world's lamest tailgate. So we had a tailgate tent outside with a table, Clorox wipes, pens, hand sanitizer, and clients, via Zoom, we would go over their documents, and then they would show up, and we would just have their signature pages out for them to sign. Well, we had that document there, but their signature pages were pulled out for them to sign, and we, did the notarization right there. And I can tell you, it was not always warm and sunny in March and April. There were some clients whose documents, just because of the humidity in the air, they've got documents that look like they're about 30 years old.
That's all crinkly. Yeah, no, I know. It's all this is going to seem less tolerable here, I think, when the weather gets bad. Of course, the weather's beautiful this week. So. Yeah,
and interesting, and many people out there may know, they changed the notary law in Ohio to allow video notaring, but it is on the listserv that I'm a part of with the OSBA, it is incredibly cumbersome to do. It requires equipment and all kinds of things to do. So we have not ventured into that field. We're now having clients in our office to do the signings, but we have not done the virtual signing. And right now we I think that financial planners can use DocuSign and those kinds of things, and we can't yet.
Yeah, no, I learned that about the video notary as well. We've got one person who's working through it, and it is cumbersome. Okay, really good question, I think, and we'll start with you, Logan. How do you guys handle ethical considerations in each field when working across the teams? And I actually thought about that, Logan, when you're, if you're picking up the phone and calling Scott or Sam on a client. Attorney-client privilege isn't the only ethical consideration, but what sorts of things do you need to have in mind when you're doing that? Thanks for that.
So part of my fee agreement has they're allowing me to do that. It's permission to share information with other professionals. So that is something that we take very seriously, but we have it right there in the fee agreement, and the client knows that they're going to allow us to share information because it's in their best interest to have that occur. And I think that really kind of handles it. Most of the clients welcome the opportunity for us to talk because it's one less thing that they have to do. They're busy taking care of children. They're busy running their business. The last thing they want to know is, how the sausage gets made. They just want it to get done.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question from the viewer.
I think so. Yeah. Scott, how about you in your world?
Yeah, I think it's information. It's all around information sharing and security of that info. We do have a lot of releases of authorization and different information we can provide, but we still, even as simple as a client, Samantha may reach out to me and copy the client and say, could you please send us a copy of the tax return? They're going to get an email or a phone call back from me saying, is it okay I provide Samantha with a copy of the tax return? And sometimes it's kind of a check the box because I know they have an active relationship, but it's just you just never know what the situation is there, and you just want to make sure you have their permission, and then just send it securely. I think just making sure you either have access to portals that each other can access or some way to send securely too with passwords.
Right. Yeah. We all like our licenses. How about you, Sam? Any different perspective on that as far as confidentiality and other things?
No, same thing as Logan and Scott said. The one thing I would add is with our business, my specific firm, we don't get compensation or anything for referring to other people. We refer at the client's best interests. We're a fiduciary. So there are no, I'm referring to Scott. Scott's giving, some sort of revenue to me. So there's nothing like that. If that's what the question was focused on, but that's the only thing I would add.
Yeah. Very good. No, very useful question. I appreciate that. All right. Well, Chris, I think that is about our time. I'm going to invite folks to do a quick, quick sum up. Is that good?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. We'll do alpha order again, but we'll do alpha order by first name. Make me nimble here. Let's see. L comes before S. Logan. Final comment.
Well, first I want to thank Bill, you for asking me to be on the panel, and for the foundation for hosting these, and everybody who attended. We couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you so much. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I answer a lot of questions on the phone from other lawyers, and I'm happy to do that. If I can be of help to you and your client, just call me up, and we can see if I can answer the question quickly, or whether we need to bring me in. But most of the time, these kinds of questions can be handled on the ground with just a quick call. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. This one's a little tougher. Sam, Scott. I think Sam comes before Scott.
Yes. Just the thing I would add about this is this was a great topic, because I think that time is our client's biggest commodity, and when we can maximize that for them, that gives them the best client service and the most satisfaction. So when we're collaborating, it's great. So that's what I would add, and thank you for hosting.
Yeah, I like that. Time is a client's greatest commodity. Good. I think everything else sort of flows from that a little bit. Scott, word.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. And, I think it just comes down to clients value having multiple advisors at the table, getting multiple perspectives. And honestly, even as professionals, I think it's fulfilling to work with other advisors. No one should be out there as like a one-man, I don't know how you could be, legal financial tax shop, for example. I think some of the best client experiences are when there's lots of advisors involved, and you get a lot of perspectives and can do some really cool things and kind of share that together as professionals too with mutual clients. I think becomes kind of a fun thing to watch evolve in your career too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank all of you, and thanks the attendees. We're all easily found on LinkedIn or a Google search. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. I think it's a topic that we all, whichever area is, we all should have sort of ongoing dialogue on. So appreciate everybody taking your lunch hour to do this. Chris, back to you, sir.
All right, thank you. I would echo my thanks to each of our panelists and to the group of individuals that participated in today's webinar. And just take a moment to reiterate that in order to receive CLE or CFP credit, the final step that you have to jump through the hoop of is you're going to receive in your email today a survey. So please do respond to that. That's the final requirement. And otherwise, thanks again for your participation, and look forward to doing this again. We're calendaring our next financial advisors for spring of 2021. So looking forward to that. Maybe
in person.
Yep, maybe in person. Let's hope.
We'll see.
So,
fingers crossed.
take care. Well, everyone, have a great day. Bye now.
Thank you all.
Bye.